Yo, what's poppin'? I'm here reviewing the second day of week 7. We got 3 games. Some good ones, some not so good ones, some close ones, some that make me sad. This one makes me sad. First up, Toronto against London. Toronto going into this 4-2 with a +3 in the regular season. London 4-3, 4-3, 3-3 with a -1. Uh, London ended up winning 3-1. So, Toronto, no more Kitty G. Their shackles have been lifted. Or have they? Uh, First map, Lijiang Towers, a 2-1 victory for London. Toronto playing Hisu, Finale, Muse, Chorong, Twilight. London playing Backbone, Sparker, Hottie, Admiral, Landon. I missed the first round because I went to the store and I got some sausages and some buns and some Dr. Pepper and a Kit Kat, so I didn't see it. But happens. Gardens. I do get to see it. And Toronto's playing Sombra, Echo, Winston, Lucio, Ana. And London are playing May, Cassidy, Ryan, Lucio, Bap. So a little peculiar. On Night Market, I actually think I remember a little bit of a Muse Doomfist, and I don't think it looked good because I was like sitting down, so I like saw a little bit, but I didn't get to make any notes. Right. So Gardens Finale looks pretty good. Hottie insta died, and Finale killed like 3. So the first fight, I was like, okay, they got this. They're chilling, and then Muse gets pinned and dies in a primal. But then Hisu hits a huge EMP, a 5-man EMP, and it cancels a Landon window, and they make it through off of Chorong B, and it's looking swag. But then London went back, and Hisu hits more EMPs, and more Nano Winstons, and Toronto win. Pretty decisively. Not like super decisively, but pretty good. Pretty solid on Gardens. Control Center comes around, and this is the Rhine point, right? So quite good. And it just kind of works like that. Toronto sticking with the Sombra, Echo, Winston, Lucio, Ana, as they will for most of the series. And London playing May, Cassidy, Ryan, Lucio, Bap, so no surprise there either. A lot of the time this map, Muse would jump in, and he would either get shattered and die, he would get pinned and die, he would just die. There's a lot of dying on the end of Muse. So not great from him. And London's comp is just making it very difficult for Toronto to actually find a dive onto anyone. And they end up winning a fight in the end, but they have to use 4 ults to do it. And then they win the next fight as well. But it was actually a good engagement because they windowed and then Muse nanoed and jumped onto it. And they killed Landon off it. But Muse was forced to primal at the very end. And it wasn't great. If he keeps that primal, maybe the next fight turns out differently and they take the map. But final fight, Hisu gets a 5-man EMP, but Admiral ends up getting a beat and Hisu dies. And then London just speed onto Twilight with a Blizzard, and London win the round. So the Rhine comp good on the Rhine map. Who would have believed that? I think Hisu Sombra actually looked good. A lot of people are like, oh, Sombra looks bad. I thought he was doing a lot because he was hitting like 5-man EMPs every other fight. And other than like a little like that first fight, Finale did not get enough done on Echo, in my opinion. He was kind of kept at bay by Sparker on the Cassidy, and Muse was just dying. He was just dying a lot. Like if he lives, they win the fight. If he dies, which happens more than he lives, they lose, and it's just not great. So Midtown, it's being a 3-1 for London. Shax comes for Backbone, and Poco comes over Hattie, so we get the Sigma look. Toronto staying on their comp, and London playing Tracer, Sojourn, Sigma, Brig, Zen, as we saw yesterday. And Poco kind of struggles on the Sigma for a little bit because Toronto kind of collapse on him anywhere he tries to go. He tries to go under the like subway. They just jump on him. They nade him. He gets hacked. He gets beamed. He gets bubbled on, and they die. And that happens quite a bit, and it looked really good. But they over-ult one time. The Muse gets fluxed, and they have to nano him, and they beat him, and they use a lot of ults to live, and trying to win the fight, but the next fight they just come through with London having ult. Shax goes huge, he gets a lot of kills, takes out Muse with a pulse bomb, and they end up capping first. And this will continue, actually. Shaxio is really big on the Tracer here. He ends up pulsing and killing Muse probably like 3 or 4 times this map in total. And London just kind of steamroll through second, they steamroll through third, and they kind of cap out. So I don't know. The dive, like Toronto lose the point, and it's like all their brain function just disappears. It's gone, and they just pull up and die. Muse just dies early every time. I don't know. Toronto's offense, they're playing their comp. London's playing their comp. They're playing Cassie instead of Sojourn. That's probably to do with the Echo, I suspect. But good adaptation. So Sparker insta-dives to Finale right off the bat, and you think, oh, Toronto have a. Sparker's been playing really well. He's been like their carry. He's dead, so Toronto should probably win the 4v5 or the 5v4. But it doesn't actually happen because Muse dies to Shax and Hisu dies, and then Toronto's forced to reset, and then the pick means nothing. And then Finale says, well, I did my part. I'm no longer going to add any value to my team for the rest of the match. And he pretty much doesn't. But yeah. There was a really good moment here where it was on the defense. I should have talked about this on Toronto's defense. It was a really strong moment. There's a time where everyone goes down early, right? And Muse and Chorong live, and they hide like inside of like the subway, way back inside London spawn, and they come out with a really big EMP recontest. I should have mentioned that. It was like a really smart play, and it kind of showed that I have like, oh, this team knows what they're doing. They have a really good idea of this recontest, how to win, but it just disappears eventually. So sad, but. Back to their offense, they eventually make it through, and faster than London did. And they had a lot of ults too because I don't even know why. It just kind of happened. They got a good dive off on Poco, I guess, is the main reason. Without Poco, kind of maybe a little crumblage. But Toronto ended up going into B with 4 ults. Yeah, so that's pretty good. But Toronto used their ults. And it looks like they're winning, and then Landon just kills like 3. They're 2 or 3, I don't remember exactly. And he just turns the fight. And then London ended up holding out on second, probably off of that, because Toronto commit all their ults to a lost fight, and it's hard to rebuild them back, and they just can't do it. He swaps to Doom. Maybe this is where I saw the Doom. He got nanoed, and he just did air. Like, he didn't really commit into London. Maybe he couldn't, because he'd just die in there, but it didn't happen. So, yeah, overall, I still think he's just doing the most on Sombra. He's still getting fatty MPs. He's still doing his part. I'd like to see more from Finale and Muse. And I don't really have a problem with the Toronto backline. I think they're playing very well. I just like the core members of Finale and Muse just not getting the job done for me. Dorado ends up being a 2-1 for Toronto. Toronto do win this one. So no personnel swaps. In London's offense, we get Toronto playing Ashe, Echo, Winston, Brigana, and so a bit of a change there. And London playing Tracer, Cass, Sigma, Briggs, Zen. And it's the first time I've seen this. This is normally you would TP out and your support's on like the red or the orange roof high ground on the far right. But Toronto sit up there and deny that, so the sim can't TP there. And it kind of forces London to make a large rotation to the high ground if they want to, or just play on the low ground. They choose to play on the low ground, and Toronto just shoot down on them from the high ground, pretty much unpressured. And whenever London gets close enough, whoever's pushing the card, they just collapse on them. So looking good. Poco ends up swapping to Diva. Sparker swaps to the Sojourn. And it feels like London are basically just playing for Sparker to get a pick on the Sojourn, which he does. But when he does that, Toronto will just dive the back line, and they will kind of trade out. Eventually, London do cap out because Shax gets a stick on Twilight, and then they dive Sparker. So as you expect, but then instead of Sparker dying, he gets rallied, and he actually kills both Muse and Finale who were diving him. So London entered B with like 245. And Toronto, the first fight they take there, just kind of a wash, but it's time draining, so that's good. And then they stabilize off of like a good live, and Muse basically primals Sparker in his ult and stops him from getting any value. And Hisu cleans up the rest, and they stabilize off that. And then the final fight, Twilight gets a big 3-man anti. Chorong gets he swings out, and Toronto holds. Chorong played very well. He had a lot of final blows. I think at the end of this, he was tied for the most final blows after the first round. I think he had the most final blows in Toronto, so very good from Chorong. You love to see it. So now moving on to Toronto's offense, actually pretty good from them. They kind of just enter B with 445. They do a really cool thing off the rip, like right off the very start. They TP right onto the high ground where teams normally hold, and they were just not expecting it, and London kind of fell over. Finale did end up cleaning up, so I guess Finale did some work there. There's another time where they're fighting. Second fight, Sparker slides so deep into Toronto's backline and kills Finale, and he does end up living, but they put so many resources on Sparker that Toronto end up winning the fight off of it because they have no more resources, and they enter B with 445. So now they have 445 to make it to the end of B, basically. And they do. Toronto are just diving the back lines, looking good, looking how you're supposed to play it. We've seen this comp last stage. We know how it operates, just more of the same. Hisu's playing very well on the Ashe. Hisu's playing as Hisu does. He's just looking good. There's a time where Finale copies Brig and the Toronto double rally, and they just win because how do you beat a double rally? And they kind of just steamroll into that and they end up finishing the map. So a good map from Toronto, but I've seen better. So new Queen Street ends up being a victory for London. Don't have it on here, but they finished the map. So I think it's like finish the map to a little past the checkpoint because oh my goodness, Toronto are playing Hisu, Finale, Muse, Chorong, Twilight. What do you think they're gonna run? They're gonna run Rush. They're gonna play Sojourn, May, Ryan, Lucio, Bap. You know what London play? They're playing Rush because Hottie comes back in, Backbone comes back in. So now we get a Rush mirror. And Toronto win the first 3 fights just off of Hisu diffing Sparker. He just diffs him. He's killing him. He is killing him. He is killing him. Like 3 or 4 fights in a row. Hisu gets a pick. Toronto move forward. They're capping. So it's 78 meters past the first checkpoint. And then it all goes wrong. Because London on the rush, Hisu cannot reliably kill someone every fight. It doesn't happen. Sparker finally kills Hisu. London start pushing the barricade. And it just continues. Hottie is MTDing Muse. Backbone is May diffing Finale. Toronto end up using 4 ults and lose the fight and let it keep pushing. Because Backbone hit such an immaculate blizzard that they couldn't really get the value out of their ults. Lots of shield shattering from Muse, and it's just a win. They just cap with like 220. So even if push didn't have the extra 2 minutes from 8 to 10, they would have won anyway. So yeah, overview: Toronto trying to brute force the Winston Summer Echo comps, and Muse struggling to stay alive a lot, and Finale's not really finding enough value. Not really. I don't know. I feel alright about it moving forward because Hisu was doing a lot on the Sombra, but he needs more around him. I don't know if Finale needs to play Tracer, which he looked better at in my opinion, or maybe we have to go Genji. Maybe you bring in Aldo, also a flex DPS. He could do it. Maybe Muse plays the ball so he lives a bit better. I like that too. But if you want to play Hisu Sombra, I don't actually have a problem with that. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Sombra sucks. Tracer's just better. Well, you can play both, right? You can do both because Hisu is such a good Sombra. I think Toronto's one of the teams that can do that. But everyone else in Toronto looked good. Hisu looked great. Twilight had good moments. Chorong was popping off a lot. But you need Muse and Finale to do more. I don't hate if they try to do this moving forward, but I think they do need some tweaks. Or you could just put Hisu on the Sojourn, who he looked fantastic at when he basically got Toronto to a checkpoint on push alone. So you could maybe lean into that if you wanted. As for London, same thing as yesterday. Continue to look strong and proving they're not a rush one-trick team. Still dominant when they need to be. And Landon continuing to impress on the Zen. I like his Zen a lot. He turned that fight on Midtown after, like that could have been good for Toronto. Maybe they could have started snowballing off of that. Maybe they can, but I don't know. Landon just stopped them in his tracks. My player of the match is going to go to Sparker, though. Consistent gameplay. Sometimes London, like on that Dorado, their goal was just for him or Shax to get a kill. Sparker was putting in his work. He was diffing Hisu sometimes, keeping Finale in check. Maybe that's the reason Finale looked so bad, but just a huge consistent performance. Now, Atlanta versus Boston. This says 3-0. It's actually a 3-2. Hold on, I should write down 3 like 50. Okay. Wait, boom. 1350. Enter. Boom. For a timestamp. So, Atlanta ranked 3-3 plus 1 entering after the regular season. Boston 2-4 with a -6. Not quite what you want. Ended up being a 3-2 for Atlanta. Actually closer than most people probably expected. So, Oasis is a 2-0 for Atlanta. Very clean. Just Atlanta winning. They're playing Kai, Venom, Hawk, UV, and OG. Boston playing Valentine, Victoria, Itzel, Faith, and Crimzo. City Center. Atlanta playing Sojourn, Tracer, Doom, Zen, Bap. Boston playing Sombra, Tracer, Ball, Brig, Zen. So we see Sombra twice in a row here. Both teams end up losing, though. Atlanta took the early point in the mid-tank control, and Kaya is just stopping all momentum Boston try to gain, not letting them walk anywhere. The dives are good on the Doom. The ball's not really diving the backline at all, and Boston's just not pressuring UV or OG at all, and just letting him do whatever you want. And you don't want UV doing whatever he wants on Zen. It's not a good strategy because he will just win. He will just win. Boston have 1 kill all around. That's it. I don't remember who it was on. Don't remember who got it. They had 1 kill. That's it. Very dominant from Atlanta. University. Atlanta playing Sojourn Tracer, Doom, Ana Lucio. They switch over from the Zen back to the Ana Lucio. Maybe they feel like they don't need the longevity or something because they're not getting pressured. I don't know why. Boston play Echo Tracer, Ball break Zen. Boston just kind of lose the first fight. Hawk gets a big kill on Crimzo. Atlanta dive the back line, and they're just diving. Kai's killing, and Atlanta's just doing the most. There's a time where I think Victoria flips point as Atlanta push up maybe a little too aggressively, but Atlanta do stabilize with beat and dive back in. They end up winning the fight, giving 30% to Boston maybe. So not bad. But there was a time where Victoria and Valentine go crazy in overtime to a lot, and they win the fight. And Boston flip, but Atlanta just come back. The dive isn't clean, and UV gets booped off the map, but it's not fully lost. Even though Atlanta use ults and they lose the fight, they don't fully leave. They're still kind of doing a little bit of poke, and then Venom gets a big kill on Victoria, and they just take that opportunity, run in, and flip the point and win the map. So overall, pretty dominant from Atlanta, and you would expect that moving forward. And Eichenwald. I left a little bit because I was doing laundry. Go do laundry, bro. And so Punk came in for Itzel, MCD came in for Faith, and Eichenwald just a 1-0 for Atlanta. I came back to seeing Kai killing 3 and Venom getting a 2K pulse, and Atlanta full holding him. It wasn't even close. On the offense, Kai just walked forward, killed them on Sojourn. He died. Atlanta followed up easy, super easy. And I was like, okay, this is just going to be a wash because Atlanta's just dominating. I'm going to go make some food because I bought the sausages earlier that, if you remember, from 16 minutes ago. I bought some sausages, and I was like, okay, I'm going to cook those now. But Circle Royale ends up being a banger, and I ended up missing it, unfortunately. I was like, oh, this is going to be easy, but it was not, because Boston kind of rolled their offense, and Atlanta did not look comfortable in the Sigma comp. I didn't take notes because I was eating the food that I cooked, but yeah, I don't know. Atlanta didn't really look that comfortable in the Sigma, and both Widows were pretty quiet. I think Boston, the supports played quite well. Maybe the Zen, I don't know why. I don't know how. Atlanta supports should just be better, but I don't know. It's really weird. Punk maybe looking a bit better on Sigma, or maybe it's just that Atlanta aren't. I don't know. Atlanta just didn't look as crisp on the Sigma, and they kind of let Boston back into the series, and they come back. Coliseum. Boston ended up winning 111-68. And this whole strategy for Atlanta, it works for the most part, but Boston kind of just end up winning in the end because every time Hawk goes in, he's just getting looked at and he's kind of just dying. There's a May for okay, Atlanta's playing their standard comp, Sojourn Tracer, Dooms, and BAP, right? Boston's playing May, Widow, Sigma, Brig, Zen. A little odd. That's a little curious about why they're playing these characters, but it's just working because Hawk is not able to fully get any value. He's kind of being exposed here. The Zen does a lot of damage. There's a lot of poke. There's some switches. I don't think the Widow stays forever, if I remember. But it's working until and then suddenly it's not working. And the Boston backline, Crimzo starts getting some kills. And every time Atlanta dive the backline, they don't. It's not clean because Crimzo's able to trade out, or there's a May wall, or there's a Widow pick, or there's something, and Boston ended up just making it all the way to 111, and they kind of just win. A little sloppy, but I understand because it's very hard to dive through that much poke on the Doomfist, and even if you make it to the Zenyatta, that's it's not a free kill because the Zen can do a lot of damage himself compared to diving an Ana. It's quite different. Anyway, Legion Tower comes out. It's just a 2-0 for Atlanta. Itzel comes back in for Punk. And it's pretty easy. Atlanta take the cap and they don't let go until Boston use 5 walls, and then Atlanta use theirs and take it back, basically. Boston playing Sombra Tracer Ball Briggs and back to the Sombra Tracer Ball. And it's not that great. It's a ball, not too inspiring. Control Center, Atlanta stay on Sojourn Tracer, Doom Bap Lucio, and Boston play Bastion Sim, Ryan Lucio Bap. And it kind of works because they get the first cap, but then Boston just kind of sit in the corner, and Atlanta just kind of take the point. And the Bastion, the DPS is on a cooldown now, right? So he just shoots, and then Atlanta just kind of kite out of the LOS. And then as soon as he's not in the turret form, they can dive pretty freely because Bastion outside of turret form is oxygen damage. So, and after that, I don't know. Atlanta just kind of go quick, and Boston just kind of crumble. It's just I don't know. It's a cool look. I understand the goal. Maybe not. Maybe not in the correct position. Maybe some TP movement needs to be made to try and get in LOS better. I'm not entirely sure the reasoning, but not bad. Overview. Atlanta looked really good until they didn't. The Doom comp looks alright, but I'd like to see it against a stronger team. It kind of concerns me how kind of whatever they looked on Sigma and how very few looks they showed, how they only showed the Doomfist, which is kind of a weakness of them. Last stage, they're kind of bringing it into this stage too, it feels like, which I'm not sure why they haven't like learned from their mistakes, but I don't know. But watching UV being able to play Bap or Zen is always like a plus. You gotta love it. His Ana is good, but his Bap and Zen are better, and it's just a pleasure. Boston looked pretty bad with Itzolin. I don't like their ball look. I don't like their Sombra Tracer look. Punk played much better. And on maps where it's not easy to just dive past the Sigma, like on Eichenwald, it was very easy for Atlanta to just go past him or just kind of ignore him. Not too worried. But on like your Colosseos, somehow, it was actually pretty good. And the damage in the poke was good. And into the Sigma comp, they looked very comfortable. So I don't know. Boston, very like iffy team because they had some bright spots where the DPS were popping off and Punk was going crazy, Crimzo and Faith were going crazy, but they also had some spots where it was like, what are you doing? What's the goal here? Do you have an idea of what you're doing? So I'd say they're probably more low table than mid, but we'll see. Player of the match for me is going to be Kai. Just great Sojourn gameplay, exactly what we expect from him. Doing it all the time. So he's just walking in, he's just taking aggro, he's just killing, he's trading, he's doing what he has to do. And his team, is just built around Kai. It is Kai's team. Don't get it twisted. Great stuff. Boom. 2157. Noted. Okay. Night market. Let me pause. Vancouver Titans against the LA Gladiators. The revenge of Deepay. Deepay's revenge, even. And so Vancouver, infamously coming in at 06 with a -14 map differential. Gladiators coming in 4-2 with a +7 map differential in the qualifiers, but they also win the tournament, right? They win the kickoff clash. So high expectations for them. I don't want to say they didn't meet them, but I don't know, interesting match to watch. So it ends up being a 3-0 for the Gladiators, but it's actually a kind of close 3-0. It's a 3-0 that doesn't feel like boring to watch. It was a good 3-0 to watch. So the Leasing Tower is a 2-1 for Glads. Vancouver playing Shockwave Aspire, Mirror on Tank, Aztac, and Massa. Gladiators playing Potafon, Kevster, Reiner, Shu, and Funny Astro. So Control Center is 100-21 for Gladiators. So Vancouver playing Sojourn, Junkrat, Zarya, Ana, Lucio. The Gladiators are playing Mei, Sojourn, Ryan, Bap, Lucio. And I'm not sure about this one because the Junk slows the game down, but in the end, the Gladiators are still just able to run onto Vancouver. It's not like, oh, we see them go. It's a little more methodical. And the Zarya just doesn't do much into the Rhine. We've learned that. It's a thing we've learned. Maybe Deepay forgot about last stage, didn't see it happen. But Zarya loses to Reinhardt. That's what we've learned last stage. Deepay maybe learning that the hard way. The Zarya comp did not look good for them. Gardens, 100-99 for Vancouver, though. Vancouver do take this point. They play Sojourn Tracer, Doom, Zen, Lucio. So we're seeing more Doomfist. Interesting. Gladiators playing Mei, Sojourn, Ryan, Bap, Lucio. Sticking on the Rhine. But as soon as Reiner dies, he basically swaps Doom right away. And it's very back and forth. This whole match is very like deathmatchy. It's like who's fragging more, how are they fragging? Like not even like how they're fragging. Just get the kills. And it kind of sorts itself out. And whenever they do end up like mirroring the Doomfist, Vancouver's looking pretty competitive. It's looking like pretty good. Massa does swap over to the Brig at some point, and I think it helped a lot. He was kind of looking a little shaky on Lucio, dying a little early sometimes, a little mispositioning. On the Brig, it helped in the brawl because this was a very brawly, a very scrappy match. I think the Brig helps a lot in that compared to the Lucio, and maybe the Zen does too. So very very nice, very fun map to watch. You see a lot of fragging back and forth. Aspire on Tracer goes crazy. Shockwave Sojourn look good. Just standard stuff, really. Well, not standard, but enjoyable things. So night market. Gladiators win this one. I don't have the score. Don't remember. But Vancouver playing Sojourn, Tracer, Dooms, and Brig again. Gladiators playing Cassidy, Sojourn, Ryan, Bap, and Lucio. Potiphon takes out Shockwave early, and Vancouver kind of crumble early. But Mirror is going hard on the Doomfist. He is just in. He has shown some pretty good Doom gameplay. He was making plays. Like, he was not doing air. He was jumping in. He was getting his punches. He was power blocking. He was hitting his abilities in the right fashion. And he was getting kills off it. And Aspire Tracer was looking great. And it was so close. Like, it was very close. But I think the Reinhardt kind of came out on top here, where it's very easy for him, like, in this, like, closed night market area, you know? He does hit some fat shatters, and it kind of was a difference maker in the final map. That ult was so much more impactful than Doomfist ult could be. Going to King's Row, it's a 4-3 for Gladiators, so pretty close. And again, so a 2-1 into a 4-3, two very close matches. Maps, rather. So Vancouver's offense, they're playing Echo, Sojourn, Dooms, and Brig, and Gladiators are playing Sojourn, Tracer, Doom, Ana, Lucio. And to start off, Aspire hit a nasty Sojourn shot. Just insane. Just across the map, right onto Potiphon. And Vancouver take that and they head into B. And it's just more of the same. It's super brawly, super fraggy, and they head into C with 245. And I don't know. It's like the strategies here are just like slam into each other, and whoever wins in a car crash wins. Whose car is more stable, kind of thing. I don't know. It was crazy. And the DPS are just switching their characters like so much on B and C. They're just like, oh, I'm gonna play Hanzo now. Oh, well, maybe I'll play some Widowmaker. Oh, maybe I'll play some Genji. Like, there was everything. Like, they were all just like, oh, I'm just gonna kill them on this guy for fun. Like, they were just doing whatever they could. And the overtime is handled really well. Mirror gets a touch, just barely gets a touch, and then it's kind of juggled by Aspire, who mostly stays on the Tracer at the end there. And he juggles it, and then he goes kills 2, and then someone else comes and touches, and Vancouver end up finishing it in OT. Meanwhile, the Gladiators offense, a little more methodical from them. They're not just like, oh, we're going to get a pick and win. They kind of move around the high ground. They bully Mirror out. He dies. They head into B with like 5 minutes. So not quite the same, like, I don't want to say luck, but not quite the same, just we're going to go in kind of style. They kind of roll through B. Shockwave swaps over to the Ashe. Kevster swaps to Widow. Kevster Widow is a rare treat to see. And then Shockwave swaps back to the Hanzo. And it's just a really long fight. It's just a huge fight. You can't even talk about what's going on, really. It's like there's a fight happening, and then that fight's still going on. Like, people die and come back, and the fight's still going on multiple times. And they end up capping with time, and then their next offense, they just roll. It's just like the A point, it's gone. It's not even relevant. They just get their tick and leave. So Route 66. 2-1 for the Gladiators. So once again, it's a Gladiators win, but it's relatively close. Like, yeah, you can say, oh, King's Row wasn't that close. No, capping in OT comparing to capping with time. But you gotta remember, this is the Vancouver Titans. Capping against the Gladiators is a benefit in itself for this team. Like, you're looking at that and you're like, damn, Vancouver, they popping off, you know? So Route 66, False comes in for Mirror. Ons comes in for Polyphon. Skewed comes in for Funny Astro. We get to see Skewed play both flex DP or flex supports, and it's nice. So Vancouver's offense, they're playing Hanzo, Tracer, Sigma, Zenbap. Gladiators are playing Widow, Hanzo, Sigma, Zenbap. Vancouver get into B, basically, you know, sniper stuff. They're shooting. Aspire and Tracer into double sniper is kind of hard, but he's being very annoying. And he's actually did pretty well, I think. Maybe you could argue you'd rather see him on the Sojourn or a different sniper or something, but I like what he did on Tracer. I think it was pretty good. The Reiner on the Sigma is a little interesting. He didn't look like out of place, but he didn't look like you would expect maybe Space to look, or maybe, you know, a stronger Sigma. Like, even like Punk was looking. He wasn't looking as strong as Punk did in the match previous. But yeah, there's some poor ult usage from Vancouver that I saw. There's a time where Shockwave got fluxed, and then Vancouver supports also died, and then False decided to flux down 3 people. I don't know what was going on there. And the Gladiators are just kind of holding Vancouver inside the chokes with their super hyper poke. They're running double sniper, Sigma, Zenbap. Like, it's like insane poke from across the map, and they can't get through chokes. It's very difficult. Van get moving a little bit, but Ons comes out. Reiner forces Trank Shu. gets a window in front of him on Zenyatta, and he just goes crazy. On Vancouver's offense, they get past the first one, but oh, that's the wrong way. This is Gladiator's offense. I was like, what? What's going on? Gladiators are kind of getting shut down by Shockwave and Aspire being really annoying for a bit, but they get through that eventually, and they head into B, and they just kind of win B. But on first, it got down to like a minute, and Shockwave was doing a lot. Aspire was doing a lot, just being so annoying on the Tracer, even with such a volatile environment. He can get a headshot anytime. He did really well. Overview, genuinely a close match, right? Despite being a 3-0, Vancouver showed real signs of life in a meta I think they should do well in, whether it be on the Doomfist mirror Doomfist rather, or False on Sigma looks much better than False on Winston, so that's always nice. And a very good showing for them. I feel like they looked like a pretty solid mid-table team, like better than Boston, I think. I don't think you can ask for a much better result. But also on the other side of the Gladiators, you're not too worried about that result. Well, it was close. You were still very much in control most of that match, and it was very brawly. And maybe you don't like that because you kind of want to play a little bit more methodical. Maybe I don't know. They still shows flexibility, and as with a team like the Gladiators, as the meta goes on, they'll just get better at it because they'll know what the counters are and things like that. So you're not upset if you're the Gladiators, and you're not upset if you're Vancouver. Just a very good match all around for both fans of these teams. My player of the match going to Shu because I love watching Shu on Zen, and it was great. Really a difference maker. Aztac in over Sky Reaper is an important thing to note, but not getting as much value as Shu. But you can't expect to get as much value as Shu. He's crazy. Gladiator's backline in general was a big difference maker in this match, even though it was so much of a frag fest. The backline's fragging as well, right? The Zen picks are important. The BAP picks are important. The Gladiators just look like they have a Soldier 76 on Baptiste because Shu is doing so much. So, really good stuff. That's going to be it for me. Subscribe for more daily Overwatch content. Like this video if you like it. Comment down below your thoughts on these matches. And, yeah, have yourself a good one.